Welcome to the Wealth Transfer with TC. Today I'm going to talk about what happened to Charlie Kirk and the ramifications of that incident that took place, and just kind of relate this to overall persecution of Christians in this world. Now, we all know what happened with Charlie Kirk yesterday. We know that his life was taken, and it was taken because of certain ideologies. And this is a very touchy subject, so I have to be very careful with my words and what I say and so on, because I want to relate this to what we are supposed to do in the future relating to the wealth transfer and some of the things that we are supposed to do with the finances that we gain. This nation is in shock, so we just need to lift up the family and children that are going to be suffering from this for the rest of their life. And folks, this is something that does happen to Christians every single day all over the world. I think that we're in a shock moment because we're not used to seeing these things, and being able to see these things online and being able to see the exact event and how it took place and all that stuff. That is something that is just insane. And I've shared some things in the past in videos about, some of the things we should be doing with the finances that we gain from this massive wealth transfer that is happening. And that is to preach the gospel, whether it's here or in other countries. And that's part of what we are supposed to do, because the world is sick with sin and evil. And you can change a generation. You can change a country. You can change a city or state by preaching the gospel to somebody, plant that seed, and then they give their life to Christ. The next thing you know it, laws begin to change. So I want to share some other articles, because what happened to Charlie is a travesty, and it's part of the persecution that is growing in this country. And we have sat in the luxury of being safe from persecution. Now, it has been rising as, in the past, a certain political party had been persecuting conservatives and Christians before Trump and after Trump. And during the last 4 years, we know that they have weaponized certain arms of the government. And we're seeing in places like the UK, where freedoms and being able to preach, those are disappearing. European countries are being more strict as far as preaching the gospel. But then, of course, in other countries, in the Middle East and Asia, persecution isn't about, oh, be quiet, or you're going to go to jail. It's on to death. And just to kind of read some articles, 70 Christians, their heads were taken in church. That was back in February of 2025. 70 people, their lives were taken because they were Christians. Then in June, you guys remember the Syrian church that left many deceased? This was also persecution. April of this year, 50 Christians, their lives were taken. Even Russia is persecuting 67 clergy members killed since 2022. Right? So they are doing it there, and it's probably being underreported. A pastor and a church member, their lives were taken in an attack. In Nigeria, since 2009, over 50,000 Christians have been killed. Now, that's just for the past 14 years. For simply being a Christian. And like I said, we're very fortunate in this country because we are comfortable. And I think things are about to get really uncomfortable. There are people that I know that are worried about going to church service. And these are things that I have heard from pastors. And I'm pretty sure all over the country, especially right now after this, because, we've had the other incidents dealing with schools and churches. There's a lot of parents that are worried. There's a lot of religious people that are worried that go to church on Sunday. And so with that, we have to be very careful. And if you're one that is street preaching, please make sure that you have security, because I think that the anger and the hatred towards Christianity in this country is only going to get worse over the next year. I pray that it's not. But people need to be alert, and their churches need to be on guard and take it seriously. And there's this article here, the 10 most dangerous places to be Christian, and most of these are in the Middle East or in Asia. I'm not going to go over each of the countries, but I want people to think about the people that their lives are taken every single day. Charlie Kirk was an example of what could happen to American Christians or Christians in other European countries where they don't have that kind of violence like they do in other countries, but we are edging more and more towards that. And you have a lot of angry people right now because of what happened to Charlie. And the more pressure we put on certain communities, they're going to try to put the pressure on us. And you can see the response to his death. And a lot of people on the left were celebrating this and happy about it. And even though you have a lot of people on the left that say, oh, it was wrong, inside they feel much differently because they don't like Christians or conservatives. So when it comes to the wealth transfer and we get through when things seem at their worst and you're at a point to where you can really start funding ministries, it's not just about ministries too as well, but to make an impact in your community, making sure that people are funded who are Christians, or at least be funding the people who have more conservative values to be placed in offices or to be placed on school boards and so on. And you start in your community and you work your way up. And the way that I look at things is this. If you've been around for the wealth transfer a while and you've been stacking coins, you've been stacking currency, you've been stacking different investments, you know what is getting ready to happen. And most of you that have been around for a long time should be walking out of this wealth transfer and continuing to make money, but with hundreds of millions of dollars in the preceding years after the market crash when things seem at their worst. And yes, you will be held liable for the finances that you have, the talents that you have. If you go back to what Jesus said about the talents and how he gave different people talents, some people buried their talent instead of using it, right, to gain more talent. And that's part of what the wealth transfer, the lessons for the wealth transfer, is to take your talents and make more. And since we are under a new covenant, we are instructed to preach the gospel. Some of you guys won't go to places like where you know it's very dangerous, but you know what? You can fund ministries that do. Whether it's here in the United States, abroad, you should be doing both. But also preaching the gospel and using your finance to bring people to Christ and to bring people hope. Now, this is not something that I talk about a lot because I'm trying to get people to a place where they understand what they are supposed to do. And we can talk about some of those things as things begin to happen. I know a lot of people are going to fall off and go do their own thing. I know a lot of people won't do what they're supposed to do because all they really want is the wealth and they don't want to use it to build business. They don't want to use it to build the gospel or to build the kingdom. But we have deep-rooted problems in this country and in other countries, and it's going to take finance to help the world overcome these things through the gospel and through donating and giving and building communities. And yes, we can do things with the Holy Spirit. Yes, we can do things with Jesus. But ultimately, you need finance to do a lot of the things that we are supposed to do. You can't preach the gospel anywhere in the world without finance. Whether you travel from here to another country or you want to finance ministries abroad. And it's not just about preaching the gospel, but also feeding the hungry, taking care of the sick, taking care of widows, elderly people, and so on. Taking care of people in their community. And that will bring so much light and hope to people. You guys need to understand how much of an impact that you can have. And after, when things seem at their worst, there's going to be a lot of people in a lot of different places all over the world that's going to need the help. And Kim Clement said it, that the dinar itself will be provision for the world. But with us, we're going to have way more than what we have with the dinar because of what we've been doing for the last 10, 15 years. But also, too, I want to put out this warning that if you say you're going to do all these things and then you don't, you're going to be held accountable for that. I'm going to be held accountable for the things that I say what I'm going to do. But there are places that I'm probably not going to go to. but there are people that are bold enough to do that, and I want to support that. And they deserve to be supported. And the ministries that you support after all of this too, remember the seeds that you put in, because you're either going to put it in good ground or bad ground or ground where there's thorns. And there have been a lot of so-called Christians that have been taking the Lord's name in vain. And if you put into those ministries, you're going to choke out the rest of your finances. So that's really all that I have for this, folks. I just want people to be reminded of the things that are coming in this nation, what's coming in other nations. And I do believe that we will go through some type of golden age, and that golden age will allow us to preach the gospel all over the world before Jesus comes back. We don't know when that's going to happen, but we can have an impact on society globally if we do what we're supposed to be doing and be a light to the rest of the world, light in places where Christians are being persecuted at, and to give people hope, the same hope and chance that we have in this nation. I want other people in other nations where it's hard for them to live to experience some of the things that we experience. And that's be able to live life, at least for the most part, almost in peace. I'm sure there's a lot of the Christians in countries where there's persecution that would love to switch places with you. So anyways, thank you guys for listening. God bless.